I understand what you're saying. Couldn't also demographics and unemployment and those sort of things have an impact on the carriers disappearing also in Maine?
I think absolutely that's a concern. We've seen a real flight of our 25 to 45-year-old population, and also a decrease in our under 18 population. But I look at a lot of other states that have a graying population. You know, Florida has a much higher percent of its population over 65 than Maine. So I agree that that's a factor, and certainly we know that as all of us age, we use more health care. But yet I look at other states that seem to have a similar population and are still able to provide more choice. And one of my concerns, particularly being a young person, is if we can't attractively get young people to voluntarily buy coverage, then that alone is making it more expensive for the older people in our state.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just one question about the methodology. To the extent that did you not all health insurance plans are alike. They have the different varying levels of coverage and copays and deductibles and caps on benefits. Is that controlled in your analysis?
It's a great question. This is what I did, and I tried to make this very transparent in the sources. I went on to eHealth, which allows you to enter your gender, your age, how many people are covered, and I looked at what plans are available for me, and I only looked at traditional health insurance plans. So they couldn't be mini-med plans. They just had to be traditional health insurance plans. And I just showed you what the range was, from the lowest cost to the highest cost. And then representative on the right side of the table is that apples-to-apples comparison that you're asking about, which I think is very important. Looking at a $1,000 deductible plan with drug coverage, so a traditional health insurance plan with a fixed deductible, and just showing you what the range is for that plan, because it is important to have that apples-to-apples comparison.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Senator
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have you had a chance to compare the proposal to Maine's law as it's written currently?
We yes, but not as extensively as I would like to fully answer your question.
Well, I think, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, just because I'm trying to get at what's the standard in Maine under the laws that's written. To me, the fact that it's file and approve is not necessarily by definition going to be the reason why folks have left Maine. Right. You really got to go under the hood to the process, and I'd be interested in comparing the nitty-gritty of the process under the Maine laws that exist to what's being proposed here in order to really be able to do an apples-to-apples comparison. Let me just ask you one question about the Maine part of the process. What's the standard for approving a rate filing in Maine?
The standard that the superintendent used last year in consideration we've had a change was the premium reasonable?
And does the Maine law define the term reasonable?
Yes, but I would say differently than what the superintendent is defining it as, which is now the subject of litigation, sort of creating more protracted uncertainty for those consumers in Maine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Senator. Any other? Yes, Representative Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, Kevin already answered the question that I wanted to ask, which was what happened to the people that you said were losing coverage? You said that the number of people that you have that are uninsured actually has not been going up, but they've instead been going to state insurance. Right. So it's your testimony that the ultimate effect of the legislation that was passed in Maine has been an actual increase in the state spending because of an increased number of people coming onto Medicaid?
What we've seen in Maine is because we have, as outlined in this table, an uncompetitive cost market, we have people who can't afford coverage, and that puts more pressure on our public plans, like Medicaid, to pick up the slack. And so we have seen tremendous pressure on the part of the legislature to expand those public plans to give these people some place to go, because there is no private sector safety net in an affordable private individual market like you have here in Connecticut. And so, yes, I think that what you see is when people can't find affordable private coverage, it puts more pressure on public plans to be the safety net. And in Maine, we only have one safety net, and that's a public plan. And we have Medicaid as one public plan, and then we have a state subsidized plan that's run by a nonprofit. that's another subsidized plan. But that plan, run by the state, has seen a 74% premium increase in the last 4 years.
Than the amount that people paid for the state plan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Not the state employees, but our state subsidized safety net plan.
There we go. So, gentlemen, there we go.
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, Tarren. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Representative Reeds?